Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we are building a classic suburban home here in Paralives. So this is inspired by a Foursquare style house. Apparently, a Foursquare is part of the arts and crafts movement that was popular back in the late 1800s to the early 1900s. I don't know why, but for some reason I've been just really into the Gilded Age recently. It's like my favorite period drama, and I feel like this house would fit in really well in the Gilded Age universe. Maybe not as kind of like a house for the elite, but maybe more of like a wealthy middle class character, I would say. But yeah, really happy to be back. I have been so incredibly busy with my full-time job. I'm literally handling multiple projects right now, and I'm still getting messages actually from my company. Even though it is on a Saturday, I'm still coordinating with my team on how to meet up with clients and stuff like that. So this is fun. Anyway, I have been falling back into gaming and reading manga recently just because I'm trying to save myself from the bottomless pit of doom scrolling, because before you know it, you've already spent 2 hours doom scrolling on social media, and it absolutely sucks when you have work and you realize that you've just wasted 2 hours doom scrolling. So I've been playing a lot of PS5 games or PS4 games on the PS5, and I've also been trying to get back into reading manga. I am so behind, but I have started reading The Summer Hikaru Died, and I have been really loving it so far, you guys. And I think it might be my first horror manga, actually, now that I think about it. I have some supernatural manga before, like Toilet Bound Hanako-kun. I'm not sure if Promise Neverland counts, but I also read that, and Black Butler. But I watched the anime and I really love it. There's kind of like some LGBT undertones to it, which I really like. And yeah, really excited to get into the manga. I've only started reading it, and I did spend a lot of money and bought the 6 volumes that were available to me at that point, just because I do have a bad track record of collecting manga, because I never really finish collecting manga unless it's like a box set. But I'm so bad, you guys. And right now, I just prefer to just get the whole set, or like get a lot of volumes, a lot of the initial volumes before I start, because I don't want to fall back into making the same mistake that I did when I was a teenager and getting like random volumes and not really getting to read the manga, because it's like you have volume 3 and 5, and how are you going to start reading that if you don't have the first 2 volumes, right? That's happened to me before, and I actually read like just volume 3, even though I haven't read like the first 2 volumes. I still enjoyed it, but obviously the optimal experience of knowing the whole story is to start it from the beginning. So that's what I'm trying to achieve right now. But yeah, let me know what you guys have been up to. Have you been doom scrolling? Have you been reading any manga? Like I said, if you have any recommendations, please let me know, because I'm trying to get back into reading more, or just doing anything to stop myself from doom scrolling on social media, because it just gives me anxiety. But yeah, for this build itself, it's really focused on this front porch area. I feel like that's the prettiest part of this build. We do have this classical front porch with these very elegant columns standing on these brick pedestals. I did have some problems with the cornice on the second floor, as you guys can see. They didn't want to connect at first for some reason, but I did try to subdivide like a segment of the level where the roof on the portico or on the porch is, and I just left a little bit of space in between the segment where the porch roof is standing on and where the wall where the corbel is supposed to be. And that seemed to have fixed the issue, because I really hated the fact that the cornice wasn't connecting. It really bothered me, so I spent like 30 minutes trying to figure it out. And I'm really happy that I was able to figure it out in the end. I think for Foursquare houses, they're supposed to be like an attic part, but I didn't do an attic part because I was able to fit in enough rooms for this build. I'm not sure if I mentioned it before, but this build ended up having 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. The bathroom is on the 2nd floor though. I did try my best to put it on the ground floor, but I just didn't have any space. I did stay true to the Foursquare naming of this house because if I remember correctly, the reason why it's called a Foursquare is because of the way the interior is laid out, because the interior is basically subdivided into 4 different segments. And that's what I ended up doing in this house, which I'm really happy about. And yeah, the roofing itself is pretty simple, honestly. Like, it's just a square shape, but I feel like having the cornices just really adds to it. It adds like an element of elegance to it, which I really like. And I really like this aesthetic overall. Once again, it takes me back to kind of like that Gilded Age era. The Gilded Age might be a decade or 2 earlier compared to when this style became popular, but I still really like it. And I feel like they're using these kinds of houses in the Gilded Age TV show anyway, like houses that were built in like the 1890s, even though the show is set in the 1880s, if I'm not mistaken. But I've been really loving the Bustle era lately. We've been getting a lot of good shows from the Bustle era. And I don't remember like back in the 90s, 2000s if we got a lot of good shows from the Bustle era, because I remember getting a lot of Victorian setting shows, but they all felt very dark and very kind of like, foreboding or dreary. But a lot of the Bustle era shows that we're getting are kind of like more, I don't want to say lighthearted, but they're very like detailed and immersive in my opinion. So with the Gilded Age, they really go into detail with like how the culture was like, and they're trying to really be accurate and give people that authentic feel of what late 1800s New York society was like. And we also have the Buccaneers, which a lot of people seem to hate, but as you guys know, I really love that show. It's more of a rebellious kind of like coming of age show, and I really like it. I really like those kind of shows where the characters aren't afraid to like be vocal about like, being rebellious. So it's giving me kind of like Marie Antoinette vibes with kind of like how they're a bit more rebellious. The characters are a bit more rebellious, and they're like standing up to society, and I really love it so much. And the visuals of the Buccaneers is also amazing because they film in like the actual locations, which is pretty cool. A lot of period dramas don't really do that anymore. They just build sets on like a sound stage, but I feel like for the Gilded Age, they are actually filming in like actual Newport mansions, which is pretty cool. So amazing to be able to see the authentic interiors of those Gilded Age mansions. And speaking of interiors, this is a perfect segue to actually talk about the interior of this build. So for the interior wallpaper, I did use a lot of this kind of like pale green olive color. Not something that I usually go for in my interiors. I usually just go for a white, sometimes maybe a blue or a gray, but not really green, even though it's like my favorite color. But I saw this color and I felt like it matched the cozy vibe that I wanted to go for with the interior, so I went ahead and used that. And I was indecisive about the flooring at first. I wanted to use this parquet floor, but it just didn't seem right for the look that I was going for. So I just ended up with like these large wood planks. And I love the tile that I picked for the kitchen. Once again, not something that I would usually go for, but I feel like it worked really well with the wall color that I picked. And also with kind of like the more historical, cozy vibes that we're going for. I definitely feel like this interior matches the personality of the person living here. In my head, they are a bookworm and they're really into reading the classics. And they're also really into watching kind of like period dramas, I guess, like the Gilded Age. I don't know. I feel like I'm describing myself. I'm not like a huge bookworm, but I have been trying to get back into like reading novels and stuff like that. I was gifted the Dracula novel actually by my best friend, which is pretty cool. I also gave her a novel as well. So I don't know, we might be starting like a book club or something like that. This might be the makings of like a new book club. But I can definitely see myself going for more of a manga book club though than a novel club. So I have been getting back into playing more video games recently, like I said, to save myself from doom scrolling on social media. And ever since I got my PS5, I did get into like the Final Fantasy series more because up until that point, I think I've only played a little bit of 10, 10 2, and Final Fantasy 12. The only one that I finished was actually 15. But yeah, I got my PS5 and I played the Final Fantasy 7 remakes and I fell in love with it, fell in love with the characters, and I am currently now reading the Final Fantasy 7 novels. I'm reading the one that deals with Aerith and Tifa's childhood, and it's so good so far, you guys. I'm still in the part where it's about Tifa's childhood. Unfortunately, the novel deals with like martial arts, which isn't something that I'm really interested in, but I do love the little bits of them, including kind of like the childhood of Tifa and Cloud. I don't want to spoil it too much, but I did love learning about Tifa and Cloud's relationship when they were kids. So there's that. But yeah, if you guys have any book suggestions, please let me know. I'm pretty behind when it comes to this, but like I said, anything to save me from doom scrolling on social media is very welcome in my book. But yeah, for the main living room itself, I just tried to make it pretty cozy. I love that we have like that central fireplace, and I'm not sure if you're supposed to put a TV on top of a fireplace. I'm seeing it in a lot of interiors that I'm looking at for my reference images, but let me know how practical that is and how potentially damaging that is to televisions if you put it like on top of a fireplace. But yeah, I think ever since the last time I played this game, they also added like some new artworks, and they have added some classical, or is it classical? Some impressionist paintings actually, and I used one of them in the main entrance area. I feel like this house and like the impressionist paintings kind of just made sense because they were kind of popular during the same time period from like the late 1800s to the late 1900s. And yeah, for the dining area, I actually just used a modern table because I wasn't going for like a full on historical interior for this one. I still wanted it to feel contemporary with some historical touches. And I totally forgot to talk about it, but as I was working on the wallpaper, I did figure out that you can put like these cornices on the interior, and they add so much to the style and the elegance of the interior. I really, really love the small detail of having the cornices to finish off the wallpaper walls, or I guess I'm not sure if they're wallpaper or maybe just painted walls actually. And you guys, I'm not sure if you saw it, but I did also try to match the staircase color with the walls, but it didn't look right to me. There's something about it that felt off, so I just kept the staircase white, and I think it looked really good. So for the kitchen, I honestly thought it was small at first because this ended up being like a 3 by 3 tile size room, but apparently it was big enough to accommodate everything that I need. And once again, I love the placement of like these counters and the fact that I was able to center it on that window, because doing that in The Sims would probably drive me crazy. Even if I used like custom content, I still probably wouldn't be able to achieve that, or I might be able to achieve it with great difficulty. But yeah, I just tried to make the kitchen really homey and not too overly cluttered, but still give it kind of like that more lived in vibe. And I'm not sure if this is just a remnant of me building for The Sims all those years, but I do leave like one extra counter space here because who knows, maybe your Paris might need it, But yeah, I haven't actually done a lot of gameplay because my game is just super laggy because I don't have the best computer ever. But if you guys have done a lot of gameplay, let me know how the cooking works, because I feel like, do you really need like an extra counter space for the Paris to be able to cook something? I don't actually know. I could probably just try that out myself actually. So yeah, if I don't forget, I'll probably test it out myself and see how it works. Also, I need to remember to upload these builds on the Steam Workshop. Once again, I haven't uploaded anything on the Steam Workshop. Yeah, I'm still gonna have to figure that out because I haven't uploaded anything on the Steam Workshop yet. But yeah, moving on to the second floor. Like I said, we were able to fit in 2 bedrooms for this house. I probably could have fit in another bathroom like behind the stairs, but we didn't really need it. And for the main bedroom, I did actually use this very beautiful wallpaper accent wall. For some reason, a lot of the projects that we've been getting recently involve like this wallpaper installation or like a wallpaper feature wall. And yeah, I really, really love this particular wallpaper. It did seem very saturated. The default colors for it did seem too bright for me, so I did actually edit it and made it a little bit more desaturated, which turned out looking perfect. And I love this bed sheet actually. I feel like the patterns would normally clash, but for some reason they don't in my eyes. And I love the whole floral vibe here, and it just feels like a fresh spring day. And I'm really, really happy with this bedroom actually. You're probably going to be seeing a lot more rooms in this style because I didn't expect to like this, but I feel like seeing how many people are drawn to this style in real life really influenced my taste. And just learning about like different people's tastes when it comes to interiors, it's like, okay, it's not necessarily my taste, but I can see why people would like it. And yeah, I think it turned out really good. Actually, I did lose some footage here because unfortunately, while I was messing around with like the second floor layout, it moved a lot of the furnishings that I already had in the bedroom. So I had to restart my game. Thankfully, there's a new autosave feature, so it saved me like maybe 10 to 15 minutes of building. So yeah, thankfully, I wasn't held back that much. But yeah, I was really happy with how this bedroom turned out. And I do add some curtains on here just for the privacy aspect of it. But yeah, for the bathroom, I was having trouble fitting in everything I wanted for this, but ended up being a good enough size. I probably would have liked to have added like a bathtub in here, but a shower's fine. I really like how the showers look in this game, as I've said in my other builds before. And yeah, it's just a pretty straightforward bathroom. I did edit out the parts where I was furnishing the other bedroom just because I didn't feel like it was really necessary for this video, and I wanted this to be as short and concise as possible. But basically for the secondary bedroom, like I said, it's more of like a reading area. And I would say it's probably more of my personal style with like the black and gray interior. And yeah, there's like a reading nook on there as well with like a really cozy modern looking chair. And for the landscaping, I just kept it really simple, to be honest. There's really not much I can do with the landscaping for this one just because the pathway leading to this house was already pre-built. So I needed to connect to it to make sure that this house fit in with the rest of this neighborhood. And I would love to have been able to put like a garage in here at some point or whatever. But yeah, I also wasn't able to put in bigger trees. Normally, I would go for like the bigger looking trees, but I wasn't able to put them because this was a fairly narrow lot. And there's also like a huge like industrial looking building next to this one. I think that's Maggie's loft actually, if I'm not mistaken. If that's still in the game, I think at some point they announced that Maggie's loft wasn't going to be in the game. But yeah, we do have this large industrial building next door, so I wasn't able to put a lot of big trees. But yeah, really happy with how this build turned out, and I love how cozy this porch is. I can see myself kind of like reading books here on a nice day. Actually, that's going to be it for this build. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. You all have an awesome day. Enjoy the rest of the video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.